It's the early hours of June 13th, 1944, in the charming town of Villers-Bocage. Through the chaotic clamor of combat, the ominous growl of a German Tiger tank shatters the air. In the wreckage-strewn streets around him, remnants of destroyed British tanks bear witness to its devastating assault. Yet, despite the dread that the tank's presence instills, the British forces are rallying. Fear mingles with determination on their faces as they get ready to launch everything they've got at this seemingly invincible enemy. A mighty machine, led by a fearless commander, stands ready for battle. Can the British overcome this devastating force that has already decimated much of their battalion? Hold on tight as we venture into the epic clash of steel and courage at the heart of Villers-Bocage. The road to Caen. Less than half an hour earlier, nothing indicated the day would turn into a true inferno in Villers-Bocage, a small town in Normandy, 15 miles southwest of Caen. As the British 22nd Armored Brigade Group rolled in under the command of Brigadier William "Looney" Hind, the townsfolk greeted them with waves of relief and jubilation. There were no enemies in sight whatsoever. As far as the British soldiers were concerned, things were going way better than they planned. The task of seizing the village and nearby Point 213 was about to be completed without having to fire a single round. The importance of their mission was enormous, so large that the fate of the entire Battle of Normandy hinged on its positive outcome. Following the successful D-Day landings on June 6, 1944, the Allies encountered strong German resistance in the region. Even though the landings caught them on the wrong foot, the German command, led by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, responded swiftly by organizing a strong defense in which the city of Caen had a pivotal role. As a key strategic and logistical center, its capture by the Allies would have provided an open route to Paris and the rest of northern France. However, British attempts to seize Caen in the early stages of the Battle of Normandy proved challenging due to the city's formidable defenses and constant German counterattacks. To overcome the difficulties of seizing the city in a direct attack, the British devised a plan to outflank the German lines and establish a blocking position. This would effectively cut off the German forces in the Caen area from their supply lines and reinforcements. The plan's mastermind, General Bernard Law Montgomery, codenamed it Operation Perch. This operation as well proved to be a challenging endeavor. It faced numerous difficulties, such as unfavorable terrain, logistical challenges, and above all, strong German resistance. Indeed, attempts to break through German lines east and west from Caen were futile. On the eastern side of the Orne River, the 51st Highland Infantry Division encountered strong resistance from the German 21st Panzer Division, forcing them to call off the operation on June 13th. The situation was no better to the west of Caen, where the numerically superior British 30 Corps saw a formidable opposition from the Panzer Ace Division, a battle-hardened German armored unit known for its skill and effectiveness. In a series of unsuccessful attempts, the opportunity arose to break the stiff German resistance on June 10th. The day before, the American 1st Infantry Division attacked the German 352nd Infantry Division. In a fierce battle, most of the German formation was annihilated, with its remnants pushed to the west. The destruction of the German division left Panzer Ace's left flank wide open. It was here that the British saw a chance to break behind their back. However, to achieve this goal, they had to act quickly. As soon as the gap was created, Field Marshal Rommel ordered the 2nd Panzer Division to seal it. However, since the unit was still far from the scene, it needed some time to get there. To preempt them, the British 2nd Army commander, Lieutenant General Miles Dempsey, ordered the 22nd Armored Brigade Group of the 7th Armored Division, the famous Desert Rats, to rush through the gap and toward Villers-Bocage. The group comprised 1st Battalion Rifle Brigade, 4th County of London Yeomanry, 5th Royal Tank Regiment, 1/5th and 1/7th Battalion, Queen's Royal Regiment, 131st Queen's Brigade, 1st Battalion Dorsetshire Regiment, 231st Infantry Brigade, 50th Infantry Division, 5th Regiment Royal Horse Artillery, 8th King's Royal Irish Hussars, 11th Prince Albert's Own Hussars, and 65th Anti-Tank Regiment. The assigned force was tasked with seizing the town and the nearby elevation, Point 213, from which they would have a clear sight of the Panzer Lehr Division on the north and the city of Caen on the northeast. Without the 2nd Panzer Division in their path, the chances of completing the task were high. However, the British soon learned there was no such thing in war as an easy mission. Ambush. Just before sunrise on June 13th, Brigadier Looney Hind ordered the 4th County of London Yeomanry Battalion, 4th CLY, tanks to move toward their final objective, which was nestled roughly 8 miles from the front line to the southeast. The troops' reconnaissance elements had a clear objective. The 8th Hussars were to guard the right flank, while the 11th Hussars ranged ahead and out to the sides. Their mission? To secure the high ground southwest of the village with tanks and infantry, as well as Villers-Bocage itself. Anti-tank guns were positioned strategically between these two formations, ready to intercept any enemy advance. The short journey to Villers-Bocage started cautiously, but finding no resistance from the Germans, the group was instructed to increase its pace. They passed the village of Livry unscathed, journeying onward to Bricassard, a ghost of a village. Finally, at 0830, British troops entered the town of Villers-Bocage. There were still no signs of the enemy. Wasting no time, a squadron of the 4th CLY rushed through the town's main street and secured Point 213. They were followed by the A Company of the 1st Battalion Rifle Brigade in half-tracks and personnel carriers. The rest of the 4th CLI remained to the west of the village, ready to secure the rest of the area. However, the British were anything but alone at Point 213. Hidden in the undergrowth less than 200 yards from the main road was the German Tiger tank, 2nd Company of the 101st SS Heavy Panzer Battalion. The unit was led by Obersturmführer Michael Wittman, a battle-hardened Panzer Ace, credited with 117 kills on the Eastern Front and a holder of the Knight's Cross with oak leaves. In anticipation of the 2nd Panzer Division's arrival, the I SS Panzer Corps commander ordered his only reserve, the 101st SS Heavy Panzer Battalion, to move into the Villers-Bocage area as a precaution against the British attempt to advance into the Caen Gap. The 2nd Company, which endured a laborious 5-day journey from Gournay-en-Bray, was ordered to prepare an ambush just south of Point 213. Of company's original 14 tanks, just 3 were fully operational on that fateful morning of June 13th. Well hidden in a vantage point, Michael Wittman observed as the British tanks approached Villers-Bocage. The impressive column of tanks and armored vehicles didn't intimidate him, though. As the column of Mark 8 Cromwell and Sherman Firefly tanks approached Point 213, he emerged from his ambush and engaged them. Navigating his armored beast through the terrain, Wittman moved towards the main road facing the rear of the British formation. In his line of fire were the trailing tanks of the British A Squadron. With a calculated aim and the press of a trigger, a Cromwell tank was quickly incapacitated, followed by a Sherman Firefly tank, both engulfed in flames within moments. The sudden attack shattered the peace of A Company's break. Wittman, now on the warpath, turned his cannon towards the British half-tracks and the anti-tank platoon's carriers. These vehicles, tightly packed to allow B Squadron to overtake, were easy targets for Wittman's powerful 88mm gun. With every blast from the Tiger's gun, British soldiers scrambled for cover as thick, oily smoke billowed from their burning vehicles. Undeterred, Wittman pushed forward, encountering and scattering A Company of the 1st Battalion Rifle Brigade. He then roared into the town, catching and destroying the leading 3 Stuart tanks of the reconnaissance troop. Further into the town, the headquarters tanks and half-tracks found themselves in Wittman's crosshairs. Hampered by the surprise attack and the tangled streets, they struggled to escape the onslaught. Only one tank managed to avoid Wittman's destructive barrage. One by one, the British tanks fell victim to Wittman's Rampage. He drove his tank further into the town center, where 2 unarmed British tanks found themselves in his sights. They quickly joined Wittman's growing tally of destroyed enemy vehicles. As he navigated his Tiger through the town, he found himself under fire from one of the Sherman Fireflies. Despite the exchange of fire, Wittman continued his offensive, pressing deeper into the town's center, where B Squadron's leading troop was stationed. Realizing the danger approaching, one of the British tanks fired a round at the Tiger, but its shell bounced harmlessly off its front armor. Only at this point did Wittman recognize the futility of his solo run as he faced an increasingly fortified enemy. He decided to pull back. As Wittman navigated his damaged tank out of the town, he encountered Captain Dias, who stalked him through the town, hoping to get a shot into Tiger's less protected rear. The British tank fired twice, but the mighty Tiger's 88mm gun quickly silenced it. As if Wittman's retreat encouraged the British soldiers, they threw everything they had at him. When Wittman approached the outskirts of the town, the anti-tank platoon led by Sergeant Bray finally managed to cripple the raging Tiger, aiming at its vulnerable tracks. Under covering fire, Wittman and his crew abandoned their disabled tank and ran on foot toward the Chateau Orbois and the HQ of the Panzer Lehr Division. In a mere quarter of an hour, Wittman had wreaked havoc, decimating 2 Shermans, 6 Cromwells, 9 half-tracks, 3 Stuart tanks, 4 carriers, and 2 anti-tank guns. The British were stunned by his fearless, some would say, a suicidal attack. Unfortunately, that was only the first blow they would suffer that day. Dire situation. Wittman's striking assault was a prelude to the German counteroffensive in which the Panzer Lehr Regiment 130 and the rest of the 101st SS Heavy Panzer Battalion participated. Following the ambush, British forces at Point 213 tried reorganizing and holding their defensive position with 9 remaining operational tanks until further support arrived. However, in the face of continuous attacks from the 1st and 4th Company of the 101st Panzer, they had to abandon their vehicles and surrender their position. Inside the Villers-Bocage, the British attempted to fortify their positions, with the 1/7th Queen's Battalion and the remnants of the 4th CLI occupying the town. In the ensuing street fighting, they managed to repel the attacks of German tanks and infantry, but their situation was growing untenable. At about 1 p.m., German panzer troops launched an unsupported advance into Villers-Bocage. They were met with fierce resistance from the British forces, who had set up an ambush that successfully neutralized some of the German tanks. However, British efforts to defend the town started to falter under sustained German assaults, especially when the elements of the 2nd Panzer Division appeared suddenly from the south. Finally, under heavy mortar and artillery fire, the Germans managed to infiltrate the town, capturing a great number of British forces. By 6 p.m., the situation for the British had become dire, prompting a decision to withdraw under cover of a smokescreen and artillery bombardment. The 22nd Armored Brigade Group set up a defensive position west of Villers-Bocage the following day. Despite facing several German attacks, they managed to hold their position, aided by the 1st U.S. Infantry Division's artillery support. However, due to the lack of reinforcement from the 50th Infantry Division, the decision was made to recall the brigade group to straighten the front line. No easy victory. The Battle of Villers-Bocage ended as a demoralizing defeat for the British, who lost between 25 and 27 tanks in the town and on Point 213. At the same time, it was a massive blow to the reputation of one of the most respectable armored units in the British Army, the 7th Armored Division. In a single attack, one Tiger led by Wittman took down 11 British tanks. The chances of quickly ending the Battle of Normandy dispersed. It would take more than a month and tons of bombs dropped from the air to seize the city of Caen. Conversely, while Michael Wittman was far from single-handedly halting the advance of the 7th Armored Division, as Nazi propaganda would have it, his assault at Villers-Bocage unquestionably stands as one of the most audacious operations in the history of World War II. Thank you for watching this episode. If you liked it, please make sure to share it and give us a thumbs up. Let us know your thoughts on Wittman's actions in this battle. And don't forget to subscribe to our Militology channel for more content. Stay tuned.